Now I'd like to say hello to James McInerney.
Hello.
How are you?
Not too bad.
I just wondered if you'd like to introduce yourself and tell the great unwashed that are listening about yourself.
Yeah, right. My name's James McInerney. I'm a poet based in Northampton. I've been writing poetry for yonks, basically, yonks, since about 1998. Had really good success with it. Started writing a few times, messing about with words, and actually started mixing them to music, classical film scores. Work from there. Started sharing them on social media network sites, which in them days wasn't really many around. No, Facebook wasn't really heard of, and kind of took off from there. And I've done since then. Had a book out. I've done a lot of newspapers, magazines. Been on BBC. Been on the radio stations, and kind of like it's gone off really, really crazy since then.
So what initially prompted you into poetry? Was there anything that you thought, I wouldn't mind a go at that?
Well, the crazy thing is, we never really did poetry at school, so it wasn't really taught when I was at school. It wasn't really looked at. Probably looked at like the poet Shakespeare, looked at about him in history, but nothing. Poetry wasn't really discussed, and I kind of like. I don't know where it come from. It's really strange. I kind of grew up in an area called Poets Corner, so really, really bizarre. And not knowing that, and then started just writing down words on paper, and then started mixing them with like film scores. When you watch a movie, you get to the point where it's really dramatic and that music's in the background. I kind of like their music, so I thought, what if I mix that with words, and it kind of
it's good. It brings your own image to what's classical music and film scores is very suggestive of thematic, isn't it? So
it was kind of like you get the emotions from each different piece you hear, like a different song. It brings out the emotions in the poem. So I would use different songs to evoke different emotions and kind of get a poem from that.
Well, yeah, I mean, hip-hop musicians have been doing it for years, reimagining classic songs, it's like you're covering a famous song, isn't it, and putting your own interpretation of what it suggests to yourself.
Well, poems are quite like lyrics anyway, so I mean, the crossover is quite easy, so to go from that. And that's kind of what I've done over the years. Just recently, I've worked with a lot of YouTubers and voiceover artists and actors and actresses and DJs, and they've actually voiced my words, and they've got radio airplay as well, which is really weird. So I kind of went off on another branch from just writing poems down to then getting people to voice them or turn them into songs, and that's been really popular as well. So
cool. Now, I'm going to get you to read a couple of poems shortly. Have you got any techniques? When you sit down to write in front of an empty sheet of paper, or do you write on a laptop, or whatever your starting point is blank? Have you got any techniques that what your first line would come from?
No, because I kind of basically start with my iPod, put it on, and when I'm walking about, I've got a pen and paper in my pocket, and I just kind of write stuff as I go along. I could never sit down and physically write one because it just wouldn't work. The pressure would be on, and it would be so. I kind of write it as I go along, and kind of like edit bits here and there, and swap and change them, and a poem becomes a poem. Takes a while, but you get there eventually, and that's how it starts. I could never be that regimented where I sat down and kind of write the poem.
I know what you mean. I mean, I'm a songwriter myself, and there's nothing worse than feeling the pressure that I've got to write something. And the more you try, the harder it gets. You are definitely you are right. I think so.
It's the pressure, isn't it? It's the pressure to kind of write something in your mind. It's saying you've got to write, and the creativity goes. I think that really is.
I think it's fascinating, the whole process. I mean, like I say, I was interested to find out what got you into poetry in the first place. Music is more tangible because you can hear a record and you think, do you know what? That's inspired me to.
Yeah.
Does the same thing happen with poems?
Yeah, well, like I said, I don't know where I started writing. I have no idea, and I can't remember when I first did, but it was just weird. It just happened. And it was like it was meant to be. And because of the media success I've had with it, it was like it was obviously meant to happen. And it's just been inspired by different types and genres of music really adds to the kind of overall experience. It's just weird. I can never today pinpoint how I started.
Now, you mentioned you've had quite a bit of media exposure and everything. Is there anything what was the first poem that got you?
Well, the first poem I wrote was about a cornfield. It's very religious for some strange reason. I don't know why. But that kind of got me. I got through that one, and then I thought I'll have another go, and just kept writing them and kind of collating them and keeping them over the years. And this book, it kind of goes from '98 all the way to 2012, and it's about 170 odd poems in there, which is quite a lot. Yeah.
Was you not tempted to like slim it down and?
I think I wanted to. It was kind of like closing a chapter. Really.
Yeah.
I mean, I wanted to get it done. It was kind of like a pain, really. It was one of those when you want to close a door, get it done, and then you can move on to the next lot. And for me, I'm starting to write the second book now, but the first book I had to just get it done. I was hungry to get that first book out there, and it's selling really well. It's out on Kindle as well, and that's on digital download as well, and that's selling as well. So I'm really, really proud of what I've achieved.
So the book's called In Between the Lines, by James McInerney, and like I say, just going to the end, there are.
So there's about
171.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, it was that was probably slimmed down. There's a few more I took out. I could have added more in, but it was a lot, and it's a lot of work to put into that. And obviously, like each poem is like equivalent of a song. Yeah. So you've got to put a lot of effort in.
Yeah, it's not going to happen overnight, is it?
No.
Like I say, this is built up over
a long time.
13, 14 year period. So.
And I think the original thing was I didn't think about a book because I went on the BBC and the bloke said to me afterwards, the presenter, "Have you got? I'm assuming you've got a book out." And I said, "No, I'm just writing for my own amusement, you know." And he said, "We should get a book out," and that kind of spurred me on. I thought, "Well, I'm going to start collecting them all together now," and I did. And kind of it was hard work. It was hard work. Migraines, headaches, you know. Sleepless nights, but I think for me it was to get a chapter door closed and tick at the box in life that says you're an author now, and it was nice.
Well, it's pretty much the same for me with this radio show. Really, it was just something something you've always wanted to do, and the chance came along. I thought I'll love some of that. Yeah, and it's just another.
You should never say no, should you?
That's it. As a child, I was like hiding behind chairs with my little tape recorder, pretending I was,
But it gives you good confidence, because I know like all the radio stations I've done. When I first won the first one, I was so scared, I didn't know what to do. But the more I've done them over the years, it gives you more confidence, and that's another new skill you've learned just from, and I've done the newspapers and magazines, and it's just it's a weird experience, but it's all you learn so much from it all.
And having to talk about yourself.
Yeah, that's weird. Yeah.
Are any of the poems autobiographical?
Well, I think everyone is, really. I think if you write it as a bit of you in every single one, and like I've been sharing them on the social media network, like Facebook, and they've become really popular with everyone, and people really like them and share them themselves onto their pages.
I have to say, when you first approached me to come onto the show, being a predominantly music show, although I do support the independent arts and creative arts and things, I did look at the reviews and you got some fantastic reviews from people that have bought the book. I have to say.
The thing is with poetry, it's one of those subjects where people either love it or hate it. And to me, poetry, I love poetry, but people still think of it as Shakespeare, frilly collars and dull and boring. But to me, it's not, and I've seen a big change now in poetry over the years, and schools have started to reintroduce it back into GCSEs, and it's become really popular now. And I've been so busy over the last couple of years with it, doing stuff, that actually poetry is coming back, and it's coming back different.
You're right. I had a poet on 3 or 4 weeks ago now, and he was saying exactly the same thing. It started from nothing, and it's just taken off. It's like, well, poetry's a new rock and roll, then, apparently.
Yeah, well, everyone loves a poet, apparently.
Well, and poets make the best lovers, apparently. So.
Well, I better check with that one.
You're listening to radiomk.co.uk. I'm joined in the studio by James McInerney. We're talking poetry, and that was an artist called About Poetry, which I don't just throw this show together. There's some planning. Now, in the break there, we were talking about the fact that you're currently working on a second volume.
Yeah.
And
Novel.
I did ask, is it proving to be the archetypal difficult second album in music speak? And
well, yeah, definitely. It's because you like you say, your own worst critic, and you want to edit it, and you want it. When I write, I kind of write and think, would everyone like that? And that's a terrible thing to think, because when you write, you should be writing for you. And
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but you do get to a point where your book's out, and then the people expect the second book, and then you think, are they going to like that? And then there's something in your head saying, edit it, and I have to start deleting lines and adding them, and that's terrible.
It's a tricky one, because on the one hand, on the one hand, you want to prove that you've actually progressed.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing, I think.
But at the same time, you want to. I can only equate it in musical terms, being surrounded by music all the time. You kind of want to keep your the essence of the first book.
What made you? Yeah.
What made you successful in the first place? You kind of want to keep replicating it, but at the same time, proving that you've developed yourself.
Well, I think if you look at, I think the Prodigy had the same problem, didn't they?
Yeah.
On their next album, that he got fed up. The lead singer, he got fed up of actually he was going to they weren't going to write anymore because the pressure was on them for another album.
Yeah.
And they found it more, very hard to write a second album, and it can be defeating sometimes because you feel that you do think as though you want to write a second book and make it good, but it's hard.
There must be the fear that you've kind of used your best ideas already.
That's the thing. I think for me, it's trying to find new subjects, and not going over the same thing all the while, and that is hard. Yeah, trying to write something new.
It's the same with songwriting. The easiest thing to write is a love song.
Yeah.
And there's millions of, and because it's kind of the easiest thing to write about.
I do get. I mean, people say your work is like Keats because I write a lot of love poetry. Obviously he was famous for that, but he died young, so we're not going to mention that. But I just kind of like doing dark stuff as well. Because I like dark poetry, and plus every person that reads it sees different.
Well, it's like painting, isn't it? It's like one person can look at a painting and see something, and then talk to somebody else and they've seen something totally different.
But you should never tell them what it's about because that ruins it, and I never would.
It's like you could say, what was you thinking? Well, you could make anything up, couldn't you?
Yeah.
So I was thinking about the fact that this orange was was being obscured by a banana in the bowl, and it's not been allowed to flourish in the same way as.
Yeah. But I would never say, because I'd prefer someone to read a poem and think how they feel about it, instead of me saying, "Oh, by the way, this is what it's about." It kind of defeats the whole.
There's nothing, particularly poetry. It is about images, isn't it? And what words suggest. You could visualize it. Have you got a poem that
I can read one? Yeah. It's not too long. It's called "Swirling Mist."
No,
I'll let you work out what that means. Okay.
Which page is it on?
102.
102 at the back.
Yeah, the back somewhere. It's very long.
So,
no.
Hymn books in your hand and page 102.
Best singing voices.
Okay.
Okay, swirling mist. I came across a swirling mist beyond the realms of borrowed time. It lingered in a cloud-like haze and consumed the workings of my mind. For as I stood within its grasp, a stranger in a foreign place, although it bore no eyes as such, I felt its gaze upon my face. And as I tried to turn my head, its line of sight remained in view, for everywhere my vision roamed, so my panic grew and grew. And though the day was not yet done, the darkness came and stole its light, allowing the painful memories from my past the freedom of a second life. For as I fell down to my knees, engulfed in thoughts I used to own, the familiar face of sorrow smiled to remind me of my journey home. And I won't mention what that's about, but I'll let people work it out for themselves.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you, it's we'll be getting a couple more poems, I hope, later on in the show. Now, if people want to buy the book,
Yeah, you can basically Amazon worldwide. It's available on all Amazons, every country. Just type my name, James McInerney, in between the lines in the search bar, and it basically comes up. There's 2 versions. There's that version there, and there is also a special edition version, which is a white version, which has the same poems but a lot of my photography in it as well. Because I dabbled in photography, and it's signed as well.
Fantastic.
And so it's got all my pictures and my poems.
And is the one that's selling better than the other, or?
No, the one that's signed is just because I wanted a signed copy out there.
Yeah.
And it's a bit more expensive, but it's got all my... Because I love photography, which is, again, poetry, you know, creativity and all that. So I thought I'd put some... There's about 35 photos, black and whites, colours in with the poems as well. So just to have a different edge. And I wanted the book... You know, I wanted a different type of book. I wanted a cheap version out so everyone could have it, and then a different kind of version out as well.
And what are the prices of the book?
I think that book is about £6. That one there.
Okay.
And I think the other one's about... it's a bit more expensive, probably about 15. But they're still selling well. I mean, they're selling good, but it depends what you want. You know, it's a mixture of photography and poems, and it's signed, and there's a bit more in the other one. But I wanted that. I mean, at the same time, in collaboration with the council, I've also got a selection through the libraries available to rent for free. So we did that as well because I love the library.
Yeah.
I've always read when I was younger, and I wanted it to, one of my tick boxes in life was to have a book in the library. So with the council, county council and library service, they're in a selection of libraries, and they're going to actually top up more. They're going to buy more of the books and put them across more libraries as well. So
any scope of them going to schools or?
Yeah, I'm doing some work with the county council over this year or beginning next. It's going to be doing workshops as well, which is going to be run by the county council. I'll be teaching.
This is Northampton.
Yeah, Northampton. Yeah, and that'll be teaching kids poetry, my style, the way I do it, and then that's going to be run through schools as well. And there should be a selection of my books in the schools as well. So that's all in the works at the moment.
In the pipeline.
Yeah, it's all been sorted out. So it's all exciting for next year.
So I would imagine that your, as you said, your style of poetry, the way you do it, would be a not in a studious way. You would sort of encourage people to write what they're...
Well, I think the way I do it is I don't like boundaries. I don't like rules of how to write. You could go to a poetry class and basically be told you must write like this, stanzas here, you must do this amount, you must write like this. And I think that ruins creativity. If you start putting boundaries,
exactly,
and say to kids, "Right, you're going to love poetry, but by the way, you've got to do this, this, this," they're going to turn their noses up and no. So my style is, I don't care how you write it. It's just getting the words down on the paper and making it your own.
And it doesn't necessarily have to rhyme.
Oh no. It's not a limerick, no. No, I think that's the kind of like myth that people think poetry has to rhyme, has to be written a certain way. And I think the more people I've spoken to over the years and kind of they've read mine, it's encouraged them to write themselves, and they've been sending me their poems, and they've really enjoyed it. And I think if you take away all the boundaries and the things that say you must do this and that, I think people actually will enjoy it.
Well, yeah, I mean, the art's pretty much the same, though, isn't it? I think the deeper you get into any art, any of the arts, you'll find, for want of any, you'll always find the dinosaurs at the bottom that want to protect their
definitely
their ways that have been handed down, and you must, like you say, you must have 8 lines in a verse.
I've come across a lot of them through the magazines, and
I would imagine you have.
Yeah, yes, which is kind of soul destroying, really, because I've spoke to a few. I'm sorry, I don't like the way you wrote that. It's not in the standard form. Yeah, and I just think, well, I'm glad they say that because it makes me want to do more. You know, because I'd hate to think that we all have to live like the old way of writing.
Who wants to be a standard?
No.
And who wants? I'm not belittling the fact that that their views are as valid as mine, but it's not the only way. There's more than one way to peel an orange. Plus,
you want to be different. You don't want to follow a crowd. You want to stand out, and you want your work to be recognised. Oh yeah, I know him, his style of work. And that has happened over the years of mine. People really like my work, and they've used it on so many different things. They've come and messaged me first and said, "Can I use this?" I said, "Yeah, that's fine." But because it's different, You know, and I like that. I like the fact that it's different, and I haven't followed any rules or regulations of how you should write a poem. And I think that really helps your creativity, because if you've got too many things holding you back, it's going to put you off.
Well, yeah, I mean, any artistic pursuits have got to be encouraged. And like you say, you put barriers up, and all you're going to do is alienate people that want to do it their way, that can't express themselves in the same way as anybody else could. You know.
Yeah.
You look at a lot of people that have got autism or Asperger's, for example. You know, they're. It's a fine line, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, between and to try and block somebody that's got their own form of expression.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible.
And that's the biggest sin, I think.
And I think that will basically ruin their creativity.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the idea of the workshops is to boost people's creativity, because if they've never wrote poetry before, then it's already a hard task to start with. Yeah. And if you start putting regulations and rules, oh, by the way, they're not going to attend, they're not going to be interested, and I think that's a shame, because I think people find that actually when they start writing, they're really good, you know, and that's a shame of somebody who's talented to actually be scared by rules and regulations.
And it's good for the self-confidence. You must have noticed yourself.
Oh, definitely. I mean, since this book, it's boosted my self-confidence, and with the radios and the magazines and newspapers, I think I would never done before. You know, I've really helped me over the years. So it's not just about the poetry, it's about everything. You know, performing on a poem on the radio would have been no, you know, but for me, it's more than poetry, and it helps you build your self-esteem. So
what's been, since you started, what has been the most... it's one thing to get a book published. Is it self-published book? Right?
It is self, but I found that was much better, and that's kind of like what everything's been going now. I looked at, obviously I sent manuscripts off to things, and they basically publish so many per year, and they've probably got stacks on the desk. And for me, I was very eager to get on. You know, I wanted to get it done. There's so many people saying, I love your poetry, where's your book? And I was like, I want a book, but, you know, no one's... So we did self-publishing, and they've been selling loads. And for me, that's a wasted opportunity for publishers. But they have their own rules and regulations.
It's got to conform.
And I do believe that I think the Beatles got turned down originally.
Well, exactly, yeah, but and history's littered with people that were shunned for daring.
Elvis was
for daring to be different. Now, which method of self-publishing did you use?
That was through Amazon. It was actually because Amazon, the biggest book marketplace in the world, basically. We went through Amazon, which is Creator Space, and you basically upload everything. They do it all for you, and then you can sell your books. And for me, it wasn't necessarily to have the book out. It was just so I could have something there where I could be, you know, physically say, this is my work. If you like my work so much, well, people did. And like I said, everyone kept saying to me, where can I buy your book? And I was like, well, I ain't got a book, I'm just doing it for my own amusement, it's for fun. And then it started getting serious, and I thought, well, I've got a book now, you know. And everyone just assumes because you're a poet that you've got a book out. Yeah. And I was like, well, why don't I get one out, you know? And it's got the magic 4 letters on the back, which is ISBN. ISBN, they give you everything, you know, it can be sold anywhere, it can be sold in bookshops, it can be, it's everything. So, I mean... Get it into the library. It does get into the library, yeah. But you could say, they're in the library to buy for free, so it's not about money. It's all about, for me, it's not about the money. It's about getting the book out so people can read your words. And that's more important to me, because that's why we've given loads away to the library for free, and they're all to rent for free, and people can borrow them and read it. And to me, it's more important the words get out there and that people see a different style of writing than the same old, because they still, you know, teach Shakespeare in school. Yeah. And it's a shame that they're not teaching newer poets and think, because Shakespeare's been taught for years, you know, and why not have newer poets and look at newer poets? I think they are. I mean, my son's at primary school, and he's been on a few poetry days and things, and they are teaching the newer. Yeah, I think they're starting to come around. Like I said, poetry's becoming so popular now that it is a time for people to start, you know, having a go. And I think I had a go in 1998, you know, and I haven't stopped since. So it's been really fun. Now, is it your own only? Is there a day job? There is a day job, unfortunately. No, not unfortunately. Yeah. But hello, boss. Hello, boss. It's my dad, actually. So it's a bit. The thing is, there is a day job, yeah, because it doesn't pay the bills. It is getting really busy. Every year it gets busier and busier, and it's hard, you know, getting hard to fit everything in. But yeah, got to still pay the bills, which keeps me going, and then I do this like at the weekends, or I do it every night when I come home, and it's just writing all the while and sharing it everywhere, and people really like my work. So
yeah,
I think everyone's got a day job somewhere.
Everyone's got a day job, and particularly if you're in the independent arts sector, it is the only means of survival. And
yeah.
You know, being a musician, I've struggled. I've seen the
yeah.
But now, you know, we're family men. You've got to and
you've got to pay the bills.
You've got to pay the bills. You've got to feed your family.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I love my job. By the way, I have to say,
because you're live on air.
The chances of my boss listening to this is very slim. But I genuinely do. And I work in the NHS, so
but I think it takes the worry off of not having to worry about the bills, doesn't it? That's clear, your mind's clear, and then you can concentrate on the things you love in your spare time, and you can enjoy them more because you've got spare time to do them. So I'd love to be sitting under a tree all day writing poetry.
No, wouldn't we?
But it's never going to pay the bills. But yeah,
I'll say never. Never say
no.
never.
Oh no, never. No, not unless we shift 1 million copies of these. But you know, I'm quite happy anyway. I mean, I'm happy with a day job, and then I'm happy with doing this because poetry, I kind of write it during my day job. You know, I go to work in the morning, walk into work, music on, writing poetry. You know, I think if you'd done it all the while and you was constantly doing it, it would.
It's a chore.
It becomes a chore then, and I'd hate it, and I wouldn't want to hate poetry. And I think if you was doing it every day, your brain, you wouldn't be producing good stuff, and I think you need a break from it, a distraction.
We're back to that empty typewriter again, aren't we?
Yeah,
or
yeah.
The empty screen, whatever. You know, the pressure to produce 20 lines. Or
I couldn't do it. Yeah, I know I couldn't do it. And people said to me, "Why didn't you write a novel?" And I just couldn't do it. I could probably write short stories, but for me, a novel would be I'd be bored.
Yeah. My
attention span would disappear after, and if I was especially pressured to write a book, it wouldn't happen. I'd be so frustrated, and my creativity would be nothing, and it'd be soul destroying. I think I like the idea of being able to write a poem, and one finish one poem is done, and you move on to your next one, and there's no pressure to think, oh no, I've got to write another one, and it's nice.
Now, in any respect of these poems, do they? I mean, I've just spotted two together that could. Are they tied together thematically?
No, I mean, I like the idea of love lost. For me, that is there's a lot of emotion in that. There's more emotion in, unfortunately, sorrow than there is in joy. A lot of songs are also written in sorrow. And for me, the best emotion is sorrow, really. But kind of love lost. I do different poems, but I kind of like the love lost because there's a lot of emotion in that, and you can really write some good stuff. Okay, my next poem is called Autumn Leaves, and it goes like this. I'm but an autumn leaf upon the ground, a remnant of all summers past. The ember sun above me shines to warm me on my bed of grass. My golden skin, now paper thin, moves in rhythm with the wind, and though I have no place to call my home, I still belong to where the seasons roam, be it summer, winter, spring or fall, regardless of the time of day. Oh, how I dance amongst a sea of souls, unafraid of change that comes my way, and though the years may differ each time around, I'll forever be an autumn leaf upon the ground.
Fantastic. Now, if people want to find you on the internet,
yeah,
whereabouts would
right? So Facebook, I'm James McInerney, but actually, if you go to facebook.com/born to be a poet, which I was lucky I could use, it was still there.
Yeah, still there.
That's me. Twitter, I'm at Mills MC07, MILLS MC07, and my website, if you just type into Google James Wicks, Wix, and poetry, it just comes up on the Google, and anyway, so it's all there.
So what was that last one, James? Wicks.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Wicks, poetry.
Let's see
Should come out. Fingers crossed, I've been paying Google enough. There it is.
There
Wow,
we go.
first one.
Look at that. Top of the tree.
Been doing it too long, that's the problem.
Fantastic. So there's a pro. Now, what have we got coming up next for you?
Next we've got a book signing. I'm still in the talks with that, but should be December. And workshops. Still working out logistics of the workshops, but they're looking to be probably December, January. So that'll be working with 14 to 19-year-olds. I think with the county council and the Northamptonshire County Council and the library service, doing all that.
So what we're going to do? I believe you're going to donate a signed copy of the book.
Yeah, signed copy of the book. Yeah.
What I'm going to do, I think I shall have a poetry competition.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll leave it open till the new year, end of January or so, and I shall get you in again to judge. To pick the winner.
Okay. Yeah. That's fine. That's not a problem. Yeah.
Keeps the poetry theme going.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll throw another couple of little prizes in there as well, because we're always getting donations of CDs and things like that.
Oh, right, okay.
Make a little goodie bag, a little bundle together, and yeah. So, anything else you want to?
No, I think that's it. I just thank you for allowing me to come on. Really,
that's a pleasure. You're welcome to come back anytime.
And it didn't snow.
It didn't snow. Have you got another poem?
No pressure's on now to pick one quickly.
No pressure.
No. Right, okay, I've got a short one.
Short one.
Okay. Today, not tomorrow. Tomorrow's sky will never show such beauty as it did today. The way the sun sets and rises will happen in a different way. The rain may fall again upon me, though it won't taste or feel the same. The wind may be calm and gentle, yet it still won't recite your name. The world will keep on turning, as though it knew no other way. It won't have realised how beautiful it was just yesterday.
Fantastic. Thank you, James McInerney. The book In Between the Lines is available on Amazon.
Yeah, worldwide. Yeah.
Worldwide.
And Kindle.
And Kindle.
Yes.
The world of the e-book. So please come in and see us again.
I will do, yeah.
Obviously, in the new year, we'll be doing the competition.
Yeah, that's fine.
And I look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you.